Live from the studio of his parents' basement, the Have You Seen It podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Have You Seen It podcast. My name is Mason Knight. Sitting across from me is the one and only Cash Kraus. But before we begin, if you guys can please be sure to smash that like button, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification as we drop videos here every single day. So with that said, Cash, what are we reviewing today?
Today, we are reviewing an important film because it is one of my favorite directors of the 21st century, Edgar Wright's newest film, Last Night in Soho. We've been waiting for this film for a while.
Absolutely. You know, we reacted to the trailer like 4 or 5 months ago. And as soon as we saw the trailer, we were very, very intrigued by this film. And not only that, but Edgar Wright has had a long history of making really great film. And not just in one genre either. You know, you had films like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, which were great. But then moving towards like action and stuff with Baby Driver. Baby Driver was really good.
Baby Driver is one of the best movies that came out of
2017.
Holy shit.
It's been a while.
I can't believe
Kevin
that.
Spacey, last fucking movie he was allowed to be in.
Yes, I forgot about that.
So it's been some years.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, but he is someone that's right up there with like Tarantino-esque, is where he can do any genre and be fucking amazing. Because he writes some of the best fucking dialogue in Hollywood. It's always so fucking quick. And his editing in films is not talked about enough, but his editing, especially in the Coronado trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, you know, Hot Fuzz, that editing is so fucking quick. It's slowed down here, but it's still just phenomenal. It keeps the pacing of the film
That's what I was going to say with the pacing. With this film, I couldn't believe it was over when it was over. I thought every single minute of this film was warranted. I thought the pacing was phenomenal, especially with this kind of a story, right? As far as like going back in between two worlds, trying to figure out what the mystery is with this character, you know, going back to the 60s when she falls asleep.
Yes.
Why is this happening? You know, and obviously the murder mystery aspect behind it. But I just first and foremost, this is one of my favorite movies of this year.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I was kind of shocked to see how low of a rating it had on
Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I think this would be right up critics' alley for sure. But yeah, it was hitting on all cylinders for me for sure because you had to do multiple things right. You had to get the 60s right. Which we knew Edgar Wright was going to fucking do well.
Knocked it out of the park.
Obviously, 60s Soho.
The Sean Connery film, even up on
Thunderball,
Thunderball,
which is fucking amazing. Yeah, but it felt like you were being pulled right into the 60s like Tarantino did with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It felt exactly like that. It was at first a swinging good time, and then he pulls back the curtain of what the 60s really were anywhere, and it was the 60s. Shitty.
And that's the thing. I hate films that are preachy.
Yeah.
Right? But this film did none of that, but it also showed you that other aspect of show business and what it was like for women in the 60s and how awful, like, you just want to be a star. You just want to sing, and you should have the same, you know, path as everyone else, but it starts getting twisted.
Well,
it starts getting molded.
It should be talent driven. I mean,
and initially, that's what you think it was for her because she was getting the auditions at the show. Life was good, but come to find out, this manager of hers was essentially just a glorified pimp.
Well, as soon as like it didn't connect for me until I think after I watched it, where I started thinking about it a little bit more, where it's like he immediately, without even hearing her sing. Matt Smith, who's fucking amazing in this as the pimp, as the quote unquote bad guy, but
it's Jack.
Yeah. He was amazing in this, but the whole thing of like he didn't even need to hear her sing. He just saw immediately that she was good looking, and he's like, "Oh, I can get you a part." He's like, "Don't worry about it," because in the end, it didn't matter whether she sung or not. It absolutely did not matter. It was 100% based on looks. And, you know, how hard or what he can do with her to get ahead because he's got 20 other gals like him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like you said, it didn't feel preachy at all because we know that's what it was, you know. Of
course.
It's
but
films don't show that, of course, so it does come off like, oh, God. But no, that's what it was, and I want to see more of that in film. I do want to see the real elements of it too.
Well, and that's what was so powerful about this film. That's why it actually had a really good message, though it wasn't. I felt like at no point was it trying to make that message, but it really did show you the dirtiness of that industry, and especially the dirtiness in the 60s, and how these women were also like completely manipulated. You know, because like Jack initially was pretending to like be in love with her. Oh, and then she asked him to be her manager, her being naive, thinking this man's in love with you. And then we get the big reveal in Act 2 where, you know, Ellie in the dream shows up to the show, but she's confused. You know, where's Anya Taylor-Joy? Where is she?
Right.
And she's one of the dancers, right? And she's miserable, and you can see
like
on her face that,
like,
her soul is gone essentially, and she's just like a robot going with the motions.
Yeah,
and that reveal too was powerful because then you realized, oh, this isn't everything that it was shaped up to be, right? Like this industry's dirty.
Well, that's what it was. It was. I mean, we were like, what's her name? Thomasin McKenzie, who's the main actress in this, who plays Eloise. Is her view of the 60s was, you know, our view as an audience of the 60s.
Yes.
You know, it was all glitz and glamour, she thought. You know, everyone was just having a fucking swinging good time. You know, there was no dirtiness to it. Mm-hmm. But once she got there, and it was revealed through going back in time, that it's not at all what you fucking think. And you get little hints of that, too, because her mom was also there at one point, and it was, you have to assume, was kind of so hard on her that she ended up taking her own life with the mental illness.
That's what the grandma said too.
And
multiple times.
And the whole time, everyone was kind of be like, just know, you know, it's harder than what you think. It's more than the records you play and whatnot.
Well, and that's why, like, the script writing of this was so good, man.
Yeah.
From start to finish. And let's talk a little bit about Ellie and her kind of character development. You know, we get all that with the mom. We come to find out very early on that she can see dead people. Essentially, she sees her mom in the mirror, so that's established right away in the film. But then also the journey of Ellie, you know, showing up in Soho, wanting to be a designer, kind of the same way her mom did, but not fitting in because she lives in some rural area in
the country,
England, and
just
everyone was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry you live there." Like she tries to be friends with her classmates, and they're bitches. They're bitches. Man. They're talking shit, and they're like, "How dare her?" Yada yada yada. So she doesn't feel like she fits in anywhere.
Yeah, and on the outside, it just looks like she's just having a pretty, you know, run of the mill breakdown, like a many college kids go off and end up doing. Because the same thing is they've never been to the city before, and it is fucking hard on you, but. Yeah, let's talk about her because Thomasin McKenzie does an amazing fucking job in this role, which is so weird. At the start, I didn't think her and Anya Taylor-Joy looked a lot. I didn't think they looked a lot alike at all. Mm. But like as this movie goes on, and like because people are like throughout the movie, people come up to her and be like, "Hey, you look just like Sandy" or whatever. But it's like. At the very first scene is when it's introduced to her when she's in the paper gown or at her home, and it's shot from far away where it's like you can't tell if it's Anya Taylor-Joy.
That's actually really funny because I thought that was Anya Taylor-Joy. Yeah. You need the silhouette, right?
See, I want to know. I think maybe it is.
It is, yeah.
And it's just because Edgar Wright, you know, he's a film enthusiast. You know, he's a genius. So I would definitely would not put it past him to absolutely do that. And then as it gets closer, swap them out.
Swap up, yeah.
Because it did look a lot.
It looked like Anya Taylor-Joy, and even the way that she moves, and like you can tell, like based on like body structure, like who it is.
I know,
and that's what I thought too.
So immediately it started fucking with my mind, but because the entire thing is played off the duality of the two characters. Mm-hmm. There's the use of mirrors is fucking fantastic. I'm sure that was all practical too. Extremely probably difficult to do. Yeah. There's so many times when there's reflections being used to show, you know, the innocence of Eloise's side, and then you know the not so innocence of Sandy and whatnot, and being that innocence being used. But the entire time they're using that, like these characters are interchangeable. Like they're the two of the same.
They even use mirrors in dream references of like breaking through the glass mirror or breaking through the mirrors.
The visuals were so
Ellie
amazing.
Would grab Sandy, you know, and be like, "Whoa!" and then wake up right away. Yeah. She broke that fourth wall. You know,
I liked the character. I definitely looked. I was so looking forward to every time she fell asleep to go back to the fucking 60s because it gets bad quick.
Yeah.
For fucking sure.
And
it's not time. And it does take time before she gets to London, because remember she gets in the cab and the guy's already hitting on her.
Yeah.
Already trying to take advantage of her. Remember he stays out. She goes to the store and he
stays out there for like 5 minutes, which is super creepy.
So immediately you get the feeling, obviously, it's not what it's all cracked up to be. And she immediately gets that once she goes back to Soho. It's like one scene after the first one to where it's like, oh, things are starting to get bad.
And like, again, genius for Edgar Wright, but you're so right. And I want to go back to what you just said about you were just waiting to go back to the 60s. That watching this film, I felt how Ellie felt. Like every time we were in the real world with her, I was like, I can't wait to get back to Soho or the 60s, 60s of Soho. Because it was so mesmerizing. It was so beautiful. And then that's what is really horrific about that is when you start getting to the second half of the film, you don't necessarily want to go back.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So it's like that transition is so awesome. Because like at first you're mesmerized by this world, and like when I was watching the film, all I wanted to do was go back to this place. It's this a dreamland, and then it slowly turned into this nightmare.
Yeah, it was like exactly what you said. I couldn't agree more. Is the writing was so good? It's like at first all you wanted to be was Sandy, but then after that first half, you wanted to be anyone else in the world but fucking Sandy. Yep. Yeah, because it became miserable. But yeah, it's great writing because and then you get once Eloise character, it's like she definitely doesn't want to go back anymore, but at this point she's being drugged back in every fucking time, and it gets worse and worse and worse.
And I gotta say, in most films, in most horror films, it was really fascinating the way Edgar did this because like the whole ghoul thing and like seeing dead people, and then like she's in the library, like it could have been so easily tropey and over the top.
Well, it sounds like we're talking about it. It sounds like it's like a Sixth Sense element where it's like she's like a detective using these skills or whatever. It does get to that point very late on to where she's desperate and where she
that's like maybe like 15 minutes of the entire film.
And that's where she can't literally turn around without seeing these monsters falling, to where she has to be like, okay, well, I got it. She never once is like, she never once is using the fact that she can see things to her advantage at all. She's never done that. But
if anything, it's a detriment because she could end up killing people on accident.
So it's not like a ghost like adventure movie or anything like that, and it's not like a haunted house film either, which is what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be like she has connection to the room or whatever, which she does have, but it's not. That's not like the main purpose or whatever, because she gets out of the house a lot. Yeah. And in haunted house films, you're in the house the entire time, but she's. At one point, you think that it can only be detained in the house, but she's running everywhere and in the library and everything. It becomes much scarier because you do feel like with her that maybe she is having a mental breakdown also.
Oh, for sure. And you look at the past mental illness of her mother, which led her to commit suicide. So again, it all made sense that, maybe this woman is going crazy, because then she goes to the police station. She's like, I want to report, when we get the reveal that there are murders taking place or have taken place in the past, right? Yeah. She wants to go to the police department and they ask her about the mental illness. Do you have any family history of mental illness?
That right there that's
game over,
that's
Jack.
Door slamming in your face. Just say no,
I know, just
every time we're not in the place yet in society where we can.
No, we're not.
But as soon as she says that, they're like, flip their books. Yep, we're done here.
Well, this meeting was great.
He's erasing on the shit he wrote. Yeah, exactly. But at one point, you do feel like she's just kind of going crazy or whatever, because there is a huge red herring where you think this movie's going one way, and then there's a huge fucking twist that I did not see coming. And I'm usually on those things. I didn't.
So am I. I'm usually on them. And
the writing was so good.
Frustrating for me, in a good way, though. It was so frustrating because when it was revealed, it was like, like those moments in film where they do like a montage of like quick little snippets of everything that you saw. It was like, oh, the big reveal. And I was like, as soon as it was revealed that Sandy, and we'll just get into it right now because we're halfway through the review. Obviously, spoiler podcast, but the big reveal was that Sandy was still living in the house, is literally the tenant or the landlord.
Yeah.
And that not only that, but she also murdered all of those men, because the whole time, you know, with these ghouls or ghosts, whatever you want to call them, I thought the whole time is like evilness. Of course they're evil. The house.
It's the outsiders kind of thing where they were ghosts the whole time, and it's like, oh, we were also ghosts, but it's like they weren't haunting her.
Right.
They were asking for, begging her for help.
Yeah.
They needed the closure.
But again, that's what I loved about it, because like when she was in the library,
you do not see it coming.
No, you don't. But then like it was the montage in my head, because in the library, I thought to myself, oh, well, that's dumb if it's a ghoul and they're trying to kill her. But if you watch in that library, the ghost reaches for her shoulder and like taps her shoulder, which was, she turns around and he's like, "Rrr," and she runs in a panic. But then when I thought about that, I go, oh, he was asking her for help literally in the library.
Well, they were all when she's going, because she goes back, because she wants to find out what Sandy's last name is. So she goes back to find murders of that time period, the exact year, and she's going through microfiche of, and she's like, I can't find anything. And every story she goes to, businessman disappears, city councilor gone. Yep. Every single one she's going to is guys, businessmen, disappearing, all in 1 year. But she's like, I can't find Sandy anywhere. But like you said, exactly, you don't even connect those things until, which is so nice, because I don't want to be able to figure it out early on. No. I want to be surprised. And 9 times out of 10, I am not surprised. But this is one time where I really, because I was so invested in her figuring out who Jack was, that I didn't even realize that the guy she was talking to wasn't Jack at all. You know, it was the fucking, it was the cop.
And again, we got to talk.
You have no idea who the cop is at all, but yeah, it was just a fucking great twist, a great red herring. You're definitely invested into one thing, and you don't even realize the possibility that Diana Riggs' character, who is the caretaker of the house, is fucking Sandy. Yep. But it's funny because my initial thought, as soon as I saw Diana Riggs, was like, oh, that's probably her. But then once the story starts going, you completely forget about that. And you think, oh, there's no way, because she's murdered.
Right.
So because my first thought was, oh, that's her for sure. But then once you realize that, or once you believe that she's murdered, that completely goes out. And that's good fucking writing, is when like you can, because I guarantee Edgar Wright was going to be thinking, people are going to think it's her immediately, but I'm going to convince you otherwise. And then flip it on your head again to where like you were right originally.
And again, like we also got to talk about other red herrings, like Terrence Stamp's character, which is Lindsay. And you know, you briefly brought it up, but playing the cop
plays a very small role in this.
A very small role, but a very good role and a powerful role and a meaningful role in the film, because this whole time you're thinking this is Jack, right? This creepy guy who, oh, I know every pretty girl in town, and is just very creepy, just off-putting.
Yeah.
You know,
very weird for an old cop to do anyway.
Right. And then, you know, when Ellie changes her hair to look more like Sandy, like he obviously brings that up right away. He notices her. He grabs the note and gives it back to her of the drawing of Sandy in that pink fluffy dress. So it's just all these things leading up, and you're like, dude, this is the guy, killed Jack.
It's just like confusion on both their parts.
Yeah.
They were like, it was like almost frustrating at times, because it's like, oh, fuck, just say your name's not Jack or whatever. And be like, hey, nope, not me, wasn't me. But the entire time you're like thinking, I mean, you're convinced he is Jack, and you want this guy to die.
Yep. And when he gets hit by a car, it's so satisfying.
Yeah. And then you found out immediately.
Yep. That his name is Lindsay and it's not Jack. And when he said, no, Jack. And as he's going up those stairways,
he says, Alexis.
Yeah.
Or Alex.
And he goes, Jack was the one who killed Sandy. And then he obviously goes out there, gets hit by a car, and they're like, no, Jack? His name's Lindsay. He's been on the force for 20 years.
Yeah, well, while Lindsay's walking up, he goes, remember, he goes, I wanted to find Sandy too, but some people don't want to be found. And then you make the connection. Obviously, she doesn't want to be found because she's been murdering people.
A lot of people. A lot of people.
And the connection I immediately was a red flag to me was she rinsed the room and she goes, you got to plug the drains. The smell comes up during the summer. It's exactly what happened to John Wayne Gacy during the summer is the bodies in the floorboards would start to rot. She says that early on. You don't even think about it.
You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it. And again, those are all those great little details.
Yeah.
That again is like that little montage in your head of like, oh, what brilliant writing. Just small little things like that just dripped into this script.
Exactly.
And then when it's revealed at the end, you're like, brilliant. Awesome.
Yeah, it was.
I love it.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit, but Anya Taylor-Joy stole the fucking show. She actually sings in this. She's a fucking great singer.
Yeah. Very talented.
She is so, yeah. I mean, she's gonna win the Oscar. I think it's just a matter of time before she wins one.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a Timothée Chalamet and Anya Taylor-Joy are the ones that you know inevitably will win Oscars.
She really stole the show for me in this. Like, playing Sandy, that's a tough role to play for sure. But being used and abused, and she does a fantastic job. And that whole scene of her, the montage of her in the dance club, you know, and he's making her dance with all the guys, and then all the guys come up and say the same thing. Oh, that's a pretty name. Or whatever.
That's a pretty name.
But she's using all the names or whatever, because she says every time she took a guy up there, you know, she died in that room. Yeah. So every time it was part of her dying. And that whole scene, you could tell that scene had to have been tough to shoot. But Anya Taylor-Joy, man, she's fucking fantastic.
She is.
She's
phenomenal actress.
So good. And the soundtrack in this film is amazing. Of course, Edgar Wright, he uses the soundtrack just as good as James Gunn does, in my opinion. It's fucking fantastic.
When I love that song that she sings too, the
slow down version, yeah.
Yeah. Waiting for you.
Yeah.
You know that one. I love that one. Dude.
Yeah, they tease that in the trailers a lot for sure. But yeah, she was fucking great. Everyone was great in this. This was sad enough. I gotta bring this, but Diana Riggs is last role. She died. I
didn't know Diana Riggs died.
Yeah, bro. Diana Riggs, a.k.a. She plays, what's her name? Elena Tyrell in Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
It was me. Remember?
Yeah. No, I know. But
she always plays a cold-hearted bitch.
She died.
She died in 2020, yeah. She was also a Bond girl.
Oh, man, that's sad.
Yeah, she was married to James Bond, and
oh yeah, she died September of last year, aged 82 years old.
Yeah, but
I'm assuming from COVID complications.
God, I hope not.
Lung cancer.
Yes. I don't know. We should be happy about that.
No, I'm not happy about her dying. Period. But because she was a great actress. But
she always kind of played a cold-hearted bitch, and this was a perfect last role for her as well. Because this is more than a one-sided. She was definitely not just a cold-hearted murderer in this. She was someone that was. I mean, she was Sandy, so she was abused for years. But it was a good enough role to where you end up hating her at the end. Mm-hmm. This whole time you're feeling bad for her, you're feeling for Sandy, and all you wanted her to do is murder all these guys.
And this film kind of fucked me up. That whole no, I'm serious. The whole rest of the night, like I just kept thinking about this movie nonstop because like the whole time, like, and obviously Anya Taylor-Joy is beautiful, so like it brings out another aspect of like, oh, this poor girl, you know, has gone through all this suffering and pain when all she wanted to do was just be a singer and live her best life and follow her dreams, and you sympathize and you love this character the whole time.
Oh yeah.
And then at the very end, you get flipped on your head, dude, and it kind of fucked with me a little bit because like I was like, oh, she's bad.
It shows you
very bad.
But it showed you exactly what the city and the business can do to even the most pure people. Yeah. You know, if you can turn this amazing, you know, beautiful souled person into a serial killer,
vindictive murderer,
all for wanting to follow her dreams, then, you know, this city can turn anyone. So that was the whole thing. It was like it soured this person so much where it's like, what a biz.
Yeah.
What a biz.
Yeah. It gets the best of us, doesn't it? That's why we just podcast. It's a lot easier. We're our own fucking producers. So.
But you're right, man. It is. It's heartfelt for sure. You know, at the end, it's like you definitely feel bad for her, but she becomes the thing she hated most.
Yep.
So you end up hating her as well.
Right.
But a beautiful end. The whole thing of like, I'm not going to jail. She just sits as the entire thing burns around her, and all the corpses are fucking falling out of the walls and shit because she's killed half of Soho already.
She's kept putting them in floorboards. That's crazy.
She's got to run out of room.
God, that house had to have stunk that year.
Because she talks about how she needs 2 months rent up front because everyone leaves early.
Yeah.
I don't wonder why.
Maybe because your house is so fucking stinky.
Because you're killing half of them, too. Like no one's sticking around. But yeah, I loved it. The visuals were fucking awesome.
Yeah, and the lighting too, so cool.
Yeah,
like in the clubs with the blue and red lights.
It does make you want to go back to the 60s for sure.
The lighting was
as long
great.
as you're a rich man. Well, rich white man.
Right, yeah, at the time, yeah. I mean, that's when you want to go back to this.
No one else was enjoying themselves.
No, they were not. It was very for one specific type of
one
individual.
demographic. Life's been pretty good, but yeah, it does. It was. I mean, it's such a. Besides all the dark shit, and the 60s, you know, was ran by the mob anywhere you go. London was the same, and New York, anywhere, exactly. Yeah. So every place was dirty and disgusting. But on the surface, it looks like a lot of fun. Mm. It looks like a good time.
I do want to talk about this because this is really sad for like the film industry. You know, this budget was $43 million, which I think was definitely justified. But right now,
blows my mind they did this for $43 million.
Oh, I know. With everything and going between two worlds, they did a great job with the film and the budget. But right now at the box office cash, it's only made $6.5 million.
Well, this is one that was also kind of limited. This was not being shown in every theater that I could find either.
Yeah, so I did find it. I did find it the one we always go to, so that's nice. But
yeah, but AMC is pretty good at showing some indie things too. Right. They do their Artisan.
Yep.
Which
that's what I'm hoping next week. The French Dispatch will be there for next week, but we'll see.
But even those films are all studio films. Like,
yeah, I guess
if we're not even getting these films, it's Edgar Wright.
Yeah. No, I meant the French Dispatch is more, but because it's Wes Anderson.
I know, but even Wes Anderson, you know, I mean, that's still studio film. Like, if we're barely getting these films in theaters, you know, what chances do we have of getting the real indie films in fucking theaters?
I know, but what's the new world we're living in? Are we not going to have movie theaters around anymore? It's kind of scary.
Well, what are they showing? Because they'll show fucking Transformers 3 in 5 theaters, and we can't get one screen.
I do understand Dune right now. Dune deserves to be seen on the big screen, but
yeah, but even Dune, I'm sure, is probably in one screen right now, while everything else is pushing it out. I mean, because something big is coming out every week now. But yeah, and the fact that they did this for $43 million, the film looks so fucking good. It looks like they shot it in 1960s Soho. So yeah, it's definitely saddening. I don't know why this wasn't on video on demand as well. It seems like it should have been.
Yeah, because this the film. Like, I'm serious. If you have not seen this and you get like early release on Prime Video where you can rent this film, it is well worth it. This is one of my favorite films this year in 2021. And we've had a lot of good films already and soon to have even more good films. But I thought the writing was brilliant for this. This is everything I could have ever wanted in a psychological horror. It was beautifully shot, beautifully designed. The characters were great. The pacing was phenomenal. Like, one of my favorite films of this year, and it really does blow my mind that Rotten Tomatoes has this in the low 70s right now. But the audience score, interestingly enough, is in the mid 90s right now. Mid 90s.
Audiences loved it. Yeah,
I loved it. This film was awesome all the way around. Highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, I don't know. It just confuses me that that score is that low because it's an Edgar Wright film. I feel like it's right up there with his best ones as well. I don't know. I loved it. Yeah, the whole 60s an element of it, and it was, like you said, it was heady. It made you think. It had a great twist that, for me at least, I did not see coming. So, yeah, I definitely... And if you can't get it on video demand, rent it. But this one also worth going and seeing in a theater with the soundtrack and the big, giant lights of, you know, Soho 60s, especially that scene when she first comes into the theater and Thunderball is playing. It really does feel like you're walking right there with her.
For sure.
But, yeah, go see it for sure.
I'm just going to read one bad review in the first sentence here because I do want to talk about it for a second. Here it is. This is from James Berdardelli. He goes, unfortunately, as too often the case with promising horror films, this one devolves into a disappointing mess toward the end. I couldn't disagree with that statement more.
I thought they tied it up really nice.
I thought they tied it up perfectly.
Yeah.
Exactly like and again, leave you with that feeling like, again, just kind of fucked you up because you didn't know how to think about Sandy after the film.
And the whole climax is it's visually stunning of like her walking up the stairs and it like being Sandy walking up the stairs and her slashing at the knife and whatnot. It definitely had psycho elements for sure, like as an homage. But yeah, I did not feel like it got me at anything. I think maybe it felt a little repetitive in the middle and then it tightened up as it started to end. So I don't know. I don't know what critics want.
Critics suck. I mean, come on, they don't make
their
any
job
sense,
is
man.
to critique. So
they're just always trying
we
to
got to
find
something.
bad.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But this is definitely one of the better ones of the year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll probably end up on my top 10. Although we got about a month, 2 months to go.
We do. We have some time, but this one stuck with me, and it still continues to stick with me, and that's a sign for me personally of a good film. This one's definitely going to hit my top 10. Don't know where, but it will hit my top 10.
We got a lot more films coming out.
I know.
A lot more films.
We are 2 months away from 2022, which tune in late December is typically what we'll do movies of the year for 2021.
But,
so
yeah, and every month coming out, I mean, every week I feel like there's 3 films coming out that are worth seeing every week. So we have a lot more to come. These next 2 months are going to be fucking
going to be wild.
Packed. Yeah.
There's a lot coming down the pipeline.
For sure.
So.
All right.
Alrighty, well, that is our review for Last Night in Soho. If you guys like what you've seen here, please be sure to smash that like button, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification as we drop videos here every single day. Thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Mason Knight. That is Cash Kraus. And until next time.
Bye.